Hi, I'm Daniel Miaris, and this is episode 4 in my Art Ideas series. Today, for this episode, I wanted to talk about mark making and drawing with a brush. It's something that I've really focused on the past few years. I love drawing and I love painting, but I really wanted those two things to come together more seamlessly in my own work. And so I've spent a lot of time focusing on the kinds of brushes I use and how I utilize those tools. So today I just want to explore drawing, the different marks you can make with a brush, the different marks I like making with brushes. And it'll be pretty simple, but I think you'll start to see kind of how I think about drawing and how that translates into my paintings and the way I use wet media. So, to keep it short and brief, that's what I want to do today. I just want to have fun with a brush. And so come along, join me on the artboard, and let's see what happens. Thanks. All right, here we are at the desk. I'm literally rolling up my sleeves because this could get messy, but that's how I know when I'm having fun. So today's topic is drawing with a brush. So this is a brush that I've been using. I've mentioned it several times, but just a brush for me, an important thing to have in a brush for me is to be able to have a point, a specific point, but also to have some options with the marks it can make. Some brushes are chiseled a certain way, and you're pretty much going to get that kind of mark out of them, but I like brushes that are pretty versatile. I do change brushes while I'm painting. You know, I have several things laid out that I use of different sizes and shapes, but I'm going to focus on one today, just for expediency. And yeah, you can obviously use whatever you want. You can use things you find in the woods, things you find at a hardware store, things you find at a high-end art supply store. It doesn't matter. Just find something that works for you and go with it. Anyway, I'm using ink again for the contrast, just so we can see what's going on and to simplify things at this point. We'll do some color in future episodes. We'll talk about that and ideas around color, but right now I'm going to stick with the black ink, and I'm going to start out with making some marks because this is a fun way to warm up, but also I want to just talk and show some ideas around the different marks that brushes can make and how to identify those, the things that you like, the things that are your language. Your language of marks is a really important part of image making, and that's why I value the things I can do with my hands even over digital tools, because it's my language of marks. It's not a preloaded set of marks, right? Even though that can look really amazing and cool. I'm a big proponent of digital tools, but I've recently been gravitating more towards what my hands can do, and then how I take it into the computer and what I use from that tool to add to it as well. But really, I love drawing and painting with my hands because of the mark making language that is unique to me. And I encourage you to try to find yours. That's a really important route to take. Anyway, here we go. I'm going to start with, just drawing, right? Can you make a fine line? You kind of want to know the range of what you're doing, right? You want to be able to see that, well, I can make thin lines. I can make lines that undulate from thick, kind of thick, to very thin, right? And you can start making marks that get more dramatic, right? Just finding rhythms with your brush, I think, is, I don't do a lot of traditional standing up in painting with my arm out in front of me. I do a lot on the artboard because I'm working with wet media, but so I do a lot of like finger dragging and ways to, and prop my hand. I'm also left-handed, which leaves about half of my art on my hand, usually. So I have to paint twice as much. Haha, it's a little joke. Alright, so you can kind of see, just with pressure, I can change what I get, but I can also, dry my brush out a lot and leave ink in it. So there's ink in the brush, but it's really dry. I can also, and by the way, I'm painting on newsprint, so it's gonna really drink this stuff up. So it's taking the moisture right out of my brush. But I can start to get these kind of scumbly. See how if I really punish this brush, now my marks are getting really, hairy and draggy. Almost like halftones. I think it's good to just explore like this, because then you can start to say, okay, now I've got this. Put your brush down and think, okay, now what am I looking at? I've got specific detail-oriented lines here. I've got more fluid lyrical things here. I've got more, atmospheric textural things here that I can leverage. These are all things I could use in the same image, but in different degrees, right? So this is why I do this little mark making. And then water and opacity is another way to think about it, where I can go to the light grays, right? I can kind of turn my brush to the side and make big stripes, or the same, delicate drawn shapes. But now it's more halftone, kind of wispy, which is another thing to take note of, right? The different ways you can do value. So these are all marks that you can make and play with. You can use other tools. I've seen people make beautiful drawing tools out of sticks and things that they whittle a little bit. But these are all things you can do. Okay. Now, we've got that. I'm going to go to a new sheet of paper. And now I thought I would do some little images. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of tea while I'm working. Always a good thing. Gotta have tea, it's a staple. Alright, so now I thought what a fun thing for me to do would be to use my dog Violet as a model. Well, she's not going to literally sit and stand still for me, but I'm going to imagine her, pull up all my memories, and without reference kind of just play and do some little gesture paintings of her. I thought that would be fun, because mark making to me involves energy and feeling, and I can't think of a more energetic subject matter than my dog. She's a mini Australian Shepherd, so she's very very raucous. She's always moving. So maybe to start with, I might make, a mark like this. Or maybe a mark like this. You might say, wow, that's crazy. It's pretty rough. But I'm going to just start by making some marks, right? Some things that feel like they might be okay. So here's three little clusters of marks that don't make a whole lot of sense yet, but I think it's got the emotion, right? And so all I do really is think about, okay, now this has a feeling to it. Now how do I want to inform that? So I would start somewhere. Like maybe I would start at her snout, and I think her nose is going to be here. Something just like that. And then maybe I'll go as far as like putting the mouth on there and drawing back into the gray. Ears, I like the ears because they have they're like leather straps, you know? And this is just inspired by my dog. It might not necessarily be an exact portrait, but you see I'm utilizing the different marks that we made earlier. The fine draggy ones, the large halftone ones. And art is not perfection. If I'm offering a word of encouragement today, it's the same one I've been offering. Art is not perfection. It's about a feeling, a moment. Does it make you feel something? And I think working in children's literature or kids lit has really taught me that. You know, it's not about getting the bird right. It's about making it feel like a bird. And now my dog Violet, she came to us and her tail was already docked. So if you know what that means, she just doesn't have a tail. She's got a little nub. But I like to imagine her with a tail because I think she would have fun with a big whooshy, brushy tail. Alright, so that kind of looks like her in a way. Maybe a little scruffier than her, but then I'm going to do these little delicate little whiskery things here. Right? So you see how you can take these emotive mark making kind of clusters and then start to go in and draw into them and define them. Get something that's really fun and kind of energetic. And things don't have to register, you know? I think we often think, oh, well, that shape doesn't line up with that one, but really, that's not always necessary. Like here, I wanted her little snout to be, have some little white suggestions of white fur on the snout. So I just moved the nose out away from the dark part, right? And maybe the ears are just flinging up there. You know, like she's really getting after it. Maybe she caught a squirrel or is after a squirrel or something. Which I think is a long-term goal of hers. To get out there and catch a squirrel. And if you could see my whole body while I'm painting, I often make faces or I scrunch my body up or twist to the side, because I'm really trying to feel the motion or the movement that I'm drawing or painting. And so I'm often trying to emulate it. Which makes for some pretty silly visuals on my part. But hey, it's what it takes. So see, it's shape and line and textured edge versus straight edge, finding all those little balances and rhythms within a simple gesture drawing, I think is the fun of it, but it's also the trick, right? That's why you can never do enough drawing and painting. You just gotta explore and gotta try. I could do this, all day long. Most days I do. So here I'm gonna kind of have the ears down a little bit, but the rump is gonna be up in the air. Tail, very playful. Another thing, I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I could probably do a whole episode on just observation. But artists have to figure out how they're going to use, reference and what kind of inputs they need when they're making images. But, one of the best things I've found is that if you're curious and you have a student mentality and you're always looking, you're never going to hurt for visual information. You're never going to long for, like, well, what do I paint? What do I draw? How do I draw? What do I draw? If you're always curious about that kind of thing, it's always just going to be there. So I encourage you to cultivate that mindset. Being curious, always looking. Make mental notes, even when you don't have a camera around or a sketchbook to document things. Just make notes, because these kind of images come out of experiences, and I think that's something that you can't teach. That's something that you can't just fake. You gotta have experiences and have feelings during those experiences so that you can tap into it later. You can't fake that, even if you want to try. So yeah. And I might, once things dry a little bit, I go back and I'll say, well, this could use another pass of something, right? So maybe a couple more marks on the tail here to go with those. If I didn't get exactly what I'm wanting, if I want to turn an edge or push something back. All right. So there we have it. 3 violets, drawing with my brush. I'm gonna share this on YouTube and probably Instagram as well. But if you're interested in what I'm doing on this episode or others, check it out. My YouTube channel. You can just find me at Daniel Miyares. On Instagram, you can find me at Daniel Miyares Doodles. And yeah, check out my work. Follow along. Stay in touch. Reach out to me if you have questions or thoughts or things you want to talk about. I love it. People are even throwing suggestions for episodes to me, which is fun. So I'm gonna incorporate some of those into future lineups. So yeah, reach out. It's been great. Thanks for joining me. This has been Drawing with a Brush, episode 4 of my Art Idea series. Catch you next time. Bye.